I'm Derek Wilson.
Jerome Phillips.
And today for communion, we were thinking about wanting to talk a little bit about what does the cross mean in terms of racial reconciliation and race. I don't know about for you, Jerome, but for me, when I think about the cross, the first thing that I think is so important is to picture Jesus as the brown person that he was. That Jesus, when we think about Jesus, Jesus looks more like Jerome than he does me. And I think for anything like that thought alone, to start to picture Jesus as a brown man, as a person of color, has done more to shape the way I view Jesus and just kind of undergird some of the implicit bias that kind of builds up in my system. And so I think one of the things that I really started thinking about with the cross is, I got asked this question: who killed Jesus, right? Who actually killed him? And who's guilty for Jesus's death, right? When I think about it, and I think is it the Jewish Sanhedrin Council, the rulers that wanted to maintain the law, the Jewish law, right? Or is it Pilate who wanted to maintain order, right? That he was afraid that they would rebel, or is it the actual dudes that put the nails into his hands? Who is it? And I start to think, I think what I've, at least with race, as far as black authors I read and my black friends that I talk with and black theologians I read, they encourage me to see sin as bigger than individual acts. And I think me as a white man, I tend to see sin as an individual moment, an act on my side. And what killed Jesus? Law and order killed Jesus, right? This system that builds up, that requires that this man be killed to maintain order in the law, right? And so what happens, I think what I've been pushed to is to see sin as bigger than my individual act, right? That it is systems that are sin, right? That can be sinful. That when Paul writes about these powers and principalities of darkness, he's not talking about individuals, he's talking about powers and their ability to take control of us and
the system as a whole.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel the same way, and it's enlightening to hear about or to understand that the system is at fault and not just an individual. I think a lot of times when we talk about race, and as a black man to a white man, there's a lot put on you when I come and talk to you about race, because it's almost as if I'm accusing you of being racist, when you never had a racist thing, you never done a racist thing or what have you. But what I see is those people that killed Jesus, the system, the individuals, the people that thought a certain way, they wasn't listening to Jesus's message, trying to bring everybody together. There's a big deal on the Gentiles and the Jews and try to bring everybody together. And that's the same way I think about race. Is what we're doing here is we're trying to bring everybody together, just like Jesus was trying to bring everybody together. And we failed at that because we have this whole thing about color. We have to go out of our way to be friends. Black man, white man. We have to go out of our way. We count the number of white friends. We count the number of black friends. And I just don't think that we've seen, and even in Jesus's day, that the people saw what he was trying to do, and that was bring everybody together.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. What is the system that has displaced this, right? That has gotten us to the point where I have way more white friends than I have black friends, right? And you, I don't know,
Same way.
Yeah, you have way more black friends than white friends, right? And so what is the system that got us to this point? And so I think as we kind of enter into communion, I think one of the things that always hits me is early on when the high priest would go before God, what he would do is first confess his own individual sins, right, before God. And then at the end of it, he would confess all the sins of Israel. They would repent together. And so it always makes me ask the question, what do we need to repent of, right? Not just I, right? But what do we as a group need to repent of? What does my family need to repent of? What does my community of Campus Church. What does campus need to repent of? What does Atlanta need to repent of? What does my neighborhood or wherever that might be, whatever your community might be? And so, like, beginning to think about sin as a system and individual, and how do we redeem the system and redeem the individual in the process? And so, as we go into this time of communion, that's what we want to think about here.
Yeah.